Today I'm going to share with you 20 top do's and don'ts of learning to crochet. I wish I had 20 fingers and I'd be like 20. That's 20. 20 do's and don'ts of learning to crochet. These are of course my opinion. I've been writing patterns, predominantly toy patterns, but some other blankety things and coats and hats and gloves and stuff for the last decade, and sharing them for free, always for free, on the Lucy Kate Crochet website. I have quite a lot of experience of getting things wrong, as well as some experience of getting things right. So today, the 20 top do's and don'ts, there'll be 10 of each, of learning to crochet. We're going to start with the do's and then we're going to go to the don'ts, because it's do's and don'ts, so that makes sense. So let's dive in. My first big do, and this is standard advice, but it cannot be firmly said enough. I know people have fallen at the first hurdle with this one. Start simple. And by simple, I mean like your basic standard granny square or a sampler. Granny squares are a great place to start because they show you several different techniques in a logical and progressive way. And they're practical. You can use them for so many things, depending on how you feel and how you like to learn, and where your idea of progressing to is. If you never want to make a blanket or clothes or things like that, a granny square might not be your ideal place to start. If you only are interested in crocheting toys, for example, then a sampler is a better place to start. So that's a chain, and then single crochets, double crochets, maybe even treble crochets coming out of that. Start simple with a granny square or a quick sampler. Do start with a thick yarn, also known as heavy, but it's not literally necessarily weight-wise heavier, more strands. A thicker yarn is a great place to start for almost everybody. It allows you to see the stitches more easily, and it allows you to manipulate the hook and learn on a larger scale. Anything, I would say, from worsted up to chunky / bulky. I wouldn't necessarily go super bulky to start off with, because you're getting into the territory of the bigger hook being slightly harder to manipulate. For me, when I teach people to crochet, I always start with Aran weight yarn. And with that in mind, do use a bigger hook than is recommended on the yarn packaging when you're learning. So I give people an Aran weight yarn and a hook that is often maybe a whole millimetre bigger than the one that's specified on the packaging. And the reason that I do that is because the place that people get the most frustrated is with tension. If you have a bigger hook than you need for those first few sample stitches, and especially to do with when you're making the chain, it makes the loops bigger, it makes it easier for them to work back into it, and it then becomes less frustrating. Do use an ergonomic hook. So straight line hooks, just a straight line sort of plastic or metal hook, there's nothing wrong with them, but they're not as comfortable to hold. And you want yourself, or if you're teaching somebody else, them to be comfortable straight away. And an ergonomic hook, ideally with a little bit of a squishy grip with some texture to it to give you some friction to be able to hold on to it better, is the best place to start. This is going to sound super random, but I was reminded of this fact watching an Elise Rose crochet video the other day, where she tried out some like crochet kit thing, or she got her husband to. It was really good, but the downside of the kit that they looked at was that the hook was rough. It really reminded me of a couple of times when I was learning where I was getting frustrated with what I was doing because the yarn was getting caught on the hook, but I didn't know enough to know that that was the hook's fault and not mine. So when you're beginning, take a strand of yarn and the hook that you're going to use and rub that hook backwards and forwards with the strand of yarn caught into it. It should completely smooth like butter go straight through there without catching at all. So check that your hook is smooth. If the hook is catching on the yarn at all, don't use that hook. That is a bad hook. Do keep sessions short. I would say max 15 minutes, especially if you're in the first few days of learning. And this is particularly true if you're teaching a kid. I've been teaching my daughter and my nephew how to crochet, and they're 10 or 11. And I do know how old they are. One is 10 and one is 11. I'm not like forgetting how old my own child and nephew are, 10 and 11. I'm teaching them how to crochet, and you notice that after maybe just 10 minutes of doing it, they're much more liable to get frustrated by mistakes, their concentration is less, and short and sweet. And you can do several 10-minute sessions in a day, but really rigidly keep yourselves to those short sessions. It's much more productive and you won't find yourself losing focus and getting frustrated as quickly. This is true for learning so many things, by the way. This is a big one for most of us, and it should go without saying, but it's so easy to get carried away, and that is do stay within your budget. Look at this new hobby and think, okay, I don't yet know if I'm gonna love it. I don't yet know what kind of yarns I'm gonna like best and what I'm gonna want to make when I'm doing it. Set yourself a sensible budget for your having a go period of time, whether that's the first day or the first month, and stick within it. Pick some colours that you really like and a texture that doesn't make your skin crawl, and go for it. Now this might be showing my age, but do take notes. If you have a short session of something, and this is probably a hang up from doing stuff with like training dogs and stuff like that, but take notes. Do take notes. Even if someone else is teaching you, or if you're using for a YouTube video, and you don't have to be old school like me and write everything in a notepad, but take notes. What did you find difficult? What did you find easy? Do you think you made progress? Motivate yourself through your notes and help yourself stay on track. This is a big one. Look at different types of resources. And that might sound daft, right? Because I'm sitting and talking to you on YouTube. But don't just watch YouTube tutorials. If you feel like you're struggling with your learning journey and that things could be going a bit better, it could be that you just learn better from different types of resources. The main ways these days that people learn are from YouTube, from websites, from sort of written instructions there, and from books. And of course there's in-person teaching as well, but that unless you have a kind and a calm friend to help you, that could be sort of prohibitive depending on budgetary constraints and availability of lessons and that sort of thing. Look at all these different ways of learning and see which one works for you. There's no this is the best way to learn. Everybody learns differently. I've done a lot of coaching. I have taught some people to crochet, but the majority of my coaching is actually martial arts based coaching. Different people, I've done that for a very long time, a lot longer than I've been crocheting, and different people learn in different ways, and there is no right or wrong way of learning. You just have to learn in the way that suits you. And my biggest do, number 10, do, the top of the do section, do ask for help. And there are lots of ways that you can ask for help. You can ask for help from someone who you know, who knows how to crochet. You can ask someone else who doesn't crochet to watch a video with you or read some instructions with you. Two heads are better than one if something's feeling a bit frustrating or you're feeling out of your depth. There are also a lot of us who have sites with patterns for free and YouTube tutorials. Drop comments below, ask questions in the comments on the website. Most people who are in this hobby want more people in this hobby. I want more people to talk to about crochet, and I also really like helping people to learn. And it's awesome when people are like, hey, you helped me to learn and then I made this pattern and made this cute thing and gave it to my friend and they were happy as well. And that's just like, it's awesome. There's no such thing as a selfless good deed, is there? But you know, we're all here and happy to help, and it's a really lovely sort of fairly, for the most part, chill community as well. So ask questions politely and respectfully, and don't panic if people don't answer straight away if you ask them online, but it's always fine to ask for help. And now the don'ts. This is a huge one. I put this first in the don'ts, but it should probably have been the last one. Don't be discouraged by your mistakes. I have yet to meet anybody who, when learning a new skill, was automatically fantastic. Everyone makes mistakes, everyone struggles. We even make mistakes when we've been doing it for a decade and teaching other people how to do it. It's part and parcel of anything that you do in life. Don't rush. Slow and steady wins the race, right? You just take your time. Don't push yourself too quickly. Don't try and make that chain faster. Don't try and make those single crochets quicker. Take your time. This is when you're learning something new, getting the technique right, whatever the tempo, is much, much more important than how quickly you put the thing together. You are more likely to get it wrong and get confused and lose your place if you rush. Don't rush. Take your time. Don't spend the earth on yarn. Okay, this is maybe a similar one to what I said earlier, but it's yarn specific. When you're looking at yarns, there is a crazy range of prices. You're learning, pick one that you like. Don't spend millions of pounds on yarn before you know whether you're going to eventually use it. Don't show off what you've made until you're ready. This may be not applicable to most people, but I do find this quite challenging sometimes. I'll say to somebody, oh, I'm trying this new thing, and they're like, oh, show me what you've done so far. I don't want to do that until it's at least semi-decent. And also the pressure of knowing that I might have to show it to somebody is enough to make me stop sometimes. Like, it's too much, I don't want to do it, I don't want to show people, so it's just gone. So take your time in showing people what you're doing. One of the great things about doing a new hobby where nobody necessarily has to watch you is you can take your time, go at your own pace in terms of when you're ready for other people to see what you've been doing. And that's fine. Don't expect too much too soon. So you might be crochet's next natural legend, right? And that is super cool. But most of us aren't. Most of us are challenged by new things. Take pride in that first granny square. Don't expect it to be the neatest, most evenly sided granny square. Take pride in that amigurumi toy. Don't worry there's a bit of stuffing sticking out because you've done it too loose or experimented with the wrong stitch type. It's fine. Don't expect too much too soon. Take it as it is, and that is the best way forward. Do not forget your stitch markers. Just don't. Don't try and count in your head. We've all been there and gone, ah yes, I'm good at this now. I shall count in my head. Don't. Someone will say something to you. The phone will ring. The oven will beep. Your cat will jump in your lap. Use stitch markers. Don't fear stitch markers. I have a lot of things to say and opinions on which stitch markers to use. I actually currently use yarn instead of actual stitch markers, but mark your stitches. Don't try and count in your head. Don't start with chenille yarn. With chenille yarn, what you have is a fine string through the middle and then lots of fluff. It is much harder to work. There are some excellent hacks to working with chenille yarn, but it is not the type of yarn that you want to use for your first project. As a beginner, my advice in my experience, don't use chenille yarn. Don't underestimate the importance of repetition. When we're learning something, doing it again and again, each time it will get better, and this is so important for tension. Tension seems, when people start learning, like some kind of weird, impossible gymnastic dream. And it's just practice and repetition. The more that you practice holding that yarn, the more easily you'll find that your tension comes and it becomes more consistent. And it is just practice. My last two kind of contradict each other, but one's specific and one's general. The second to last one is don't fear the frog. And that's not a frog like an adorable pet frog. I'm pointing to my pet frogs. You can't see them. You didn't know they were there. But I'm referring to frogging as in undoing, unraveling. Frogging is a really common thing in crochet because on the whole you can actually reuse yarn if you undo it carefully. But don't worry about undoing it and starting again, especially if you're making a sampler up of some new stitches or working chains. Undo it and do it again. Keep using that same yarn. You're not going to want to keep that sampler. Don't worry. Undo it and start again. And that is, again, it's a part of the repetition and it's a great way to learn. Finally, don't give up. Keep trying. If you're finding something frustrating, see the last point for the do's. Do ask for help. Don't just quit. It's fine to quit if it turns out that it's just not your style and you're not into it, but don't give up through frustration of the learning process. Just look for different ways to learn. Keep having a go. This is a hobby that is really, really open to most people to be able to do. And that doesn't mean that it's easy or that you're doing something bad or wrong or stupid if you can't get a certain thing. It's all part of the learning process. Don't give up. Ask for help. But let me know, what did I miss? What do's and don'ts would you add onto the list? Do you disagree with any of my do's or don'ts? Some people will disagree with my chenille one, but let's have a chat in the comments section and I'll see you there. And remember that All my crochet patterns you can find for free on the Lucy Kay Crochet website. Happy crocheting!